Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever this video finds you, I hope you're having a rad time. I'm the Figure Dude, and today we've got some WCW flashbacks. Without further ado, let's talk about some figures. Dude. Okay, so today I'm going to be making the Varsity Club, and then I also threw Steve McMichael in here because I didn't know how well a Steve McMichael video would do on its own, and honestly, these are some deeper cuts for some people, so I'm sure there is a group that will highly enjoy today, and a lot of other people that'll have zero interest in this, and that is okay. I want to have some variety on the channel. I feel like I don't get a lot of, more throwback, and these, I don't know, depending on what era you watch, these might not feel like much of a throwback. It's not like obscure guys, but I wanted to make the Varsity Club, so I do not have what I need to make Dr. Death to go with this group, but we're going to be making Rick Steiner in his Michigan singlet. We've got Kevin Sullivan, who I've wanted to make for a long time, and then Mike Rotunda is going to be in his Illinois. Yeah, I think it's Illinois. I think it just says Varsity Club, but he's got like Illinois colors. And then the Mongo McMichael, I wanted to make him because I need a Mongo McMichael for my WCW collection. I need to have him on my shelf next to Goldberg. That's all I know. Let's see. I think the Rick Steiner is from Heteration, and I had started working on that a long time ago. Like when I had first started the channel, I'm pretty sure is when I got this Rick, and it was one of the first head sculpts I had started painting up. And then I don't know what happened. I just never got around to it, or if it was, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't get around to it. Formula-wise, we've got a lot going on here. Rick is essentially just a Rick Steiner, a Ryback that was pieced back together, and then he's got some Mean Mark Calloway arms. Kevin Sullivan is a, who did we just get? Greg Valentine, I think, with some different boots and arms. The Mike Rotunda is a torso, a Bret Hart torso, Mr. Perfect upper legs and then lower legs from an Arn Anderson. And then Mongo McMichael is an anvil with lower legs from like a Dolph Ziggler. And then the upper body of Hulk Hogan. And I've seen people use this Hulk Hogan upper for Mongo, and I think it looks good, but then he's not that tall. I thought he was an NFL defensive tackle. He looked like a pretty sizable dude, but he was only like 5'11" or 6 feet, which I don't know, I just expected him to be a lot bigger. So I think that's gonna look pretty good formula-wise with all of them, but I'm excited to just get them all painted up. I'm trying to get as deep as I can into the roster with guys, and these feel like 4 that are, you know, gonna look rad once we get them done and plopped on the WCW shelf. So let's get to it. All right, let's get to it with the Kevin Sullivan here. So gonna paint the skin tone on and the hair, and this is gonna be a relatively easy one to paint. Since I did spray it white, I'm going to just try to not get the skin tone on the eyes. I'll do that. Sometimes I mess it up and I got to go back and do the white anyway, but if I can avoid it, I will. The same skin tone is going to be used for both of these guys with the pale look, which when I got these paints from Cujo, I did not feel like it looked pale or looked like the right color, and then once I got it on there and popped it on the figure, it's perfect. So again, shout out to Skin Tones by Cujo. You can find him on Facebook. He's fantastic. These skin tone paints are perfect. The beard, we're gonna do a very light brown, and then I did use a butterscotch paint, I want to say, for Kevin Sullivan's hair. I'll use that or khaki pretty often when I'm doing blonde hair. The white paint on the soles of those boots was all I needed to do to finish Kevin Sullivan. This torso is for Mike Rotunda, painting up that skin tone. The painted Mattel skin tones just don't match well, so I was going to repaint it anyway.
It was supposed to be in the tan skin tone for Chad Gable, but then it didn't match because it was painted anyway, so it didn't really match anything. Gonna repaint all of it so it all just goes together. For black hair, I have both a black matte paint that I'll use, and I also have a brown black that's got a little more brown to it, obviously. Sometimes I feel like that's more fitting, but more often than not, I just use my matte black Vallejo paint for darker hair now. It doesn't have the gloss to it like Apple Barrel does also, even when I use like matte black, so I just feel like it looks really good with for hair. Singlet here, I'm just using my navy blue. Again, I use almost all Vallejo paint now. I'm slowly just building up how many I have there, but for most colors, I try to pick it up, especially if I'm going to do like a big, like I did the torso, the trunks, everything on here. So if I'm doing a lot of it and I don't want to do as many layers, I'm going to go get my Vallejo if I don't have that color already, just because it covers well, so you don't have to go over it quite as many times. Yellow I have not had a lot of luck with. I still feel like I don't have a good yellow that covers well without having to do a lot of painting. But the tool here I use, people always ask, it's a sculpting tool. You can get them at Walmart, just about any place that has supplies. I use that often for little details. On the head sculpt there, I used my smallest paintbrush and did a very, very light wash of black. So it was essentially just like black-ish water that I put on the face to give him that 5 o'clock shadow. And I'm going to paint his white soles as well. You can see I swapped out the knee pads there. I was looking up some reference pictures and wanted to go with something a little bit different, so I'll kind of talk through how I did those in the wrap-up. Again, there's that sculpting tool though. I use that, put a little dab of paint on the end, and it makes fine details much, much easier. I use this often with eyes too. I'm sure there's others, like I know some people will use toothpicks, but this is just what I've been most comfortable with. Been the easiest for me to figure out how to work. Then the last thing for Mike is just like a silver tip on the boot, which I thought was a cool detail to throw in there. Decals for both of them are super easy. We jumped ahead a little bit, but the same process for the Rick Steiner. I don't want to paint the skin tone. That Ryback paint originally was very off. Like you can see a little bit of the red sticking out, and I didn't want to just keep using acetone on it. So I'm going to try and get the skin tone on, see how it looks. If I feel like I need to paint the skin tone, I will. Because the paint is amazing, but if I don't have to, I won't. But I used the same navy blue. You maybe could use a different blue. Like the Mike Rotunda's maybe a little bit darker, but I wasn't going to get super picky between shades of dark blue. But almost all, there was a lot of painting involved here. The decals were minimal. So I did, like I am trying to take my time, be more careful, more patient with my customs so that they look as clean as possible. I did use a different yellow on the head sculpt than I did on the tights. I kind of felt like that's how it looked in pictures, where it was like a little darker yellow on his head gear, with the brighter Michigan yellow on the singlet. So I went with that. I could have done the same, but I thought it looked cool. Or not cool even. I preferred that look. I thought that looked better. One of the things with the sculpting tool is that it makes it really easy to get shoelaces. I always use it for shoelaces, even if you have, it doesn't, you can kind of figure out how the feel is, but with the already molded lines on there, it makes it super, super easy to do shoelaces. Mongo here, I had already taped off the bottom, so I'm going to do the black, and then I'll paint the skin tone on the thighs, and then I'll touch up whatever I need to with the black over the skin tone instead of trying to do skin tone over the black. And then he's got simple decals as well. Just a couple little ones. This was a dark brown, not the brown black. This was just like a normal brown that I use for his hair. I will use apple barrel often for hair still. That's one thing I will use just because I have a bigger variety. But like I said, most part, we're using Vallejo. All right, so starting off with the Kevin Sullivan and the Mongo McMichael here. I've had this formula in mind for Kevin Sullivan for a long time. As soon as we saw it in the render, I was like, oh yeah, like that's what I'm going with. And it was pretty simple. Just the swapping around of parts and then painting that head sculpt. And I might end up just ordering another one of this exact head to make a Taskmaster version of him in his red singlet. I need a Kevin Sullivan for my Dungeon of Doom. Even though I think we've only gotten the shark from the Dungeon of Doom. Technically, the giant is in there. I don't know how much we'll get of the Dungeon of Doom. But anyway, I needed a Kevin Sullivan just in my collection. So I'm glad I was able to sneak that in here today. And then the Mongo McMichael, I can't remember what the Twitter account was called. It was... There was a Mongo McMichael Twitter account that was just dedicated to him looking awkward in the ring, and hopefully his soul is somewhere happy, resting in peace, laughing and enjoying his old wrestling gaffes as much as I did at one point. But the figure here, again, I had a lot of fun putting that formula together, kind of figuring out something that would work. And sometimes having the gap between the torso and the trunks would bother me, but the way that he wore his trunks, kind of high-waisted, the way that Hogan torso fits in there, I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Head sculpt as well. I think both of these were from Tom Veg. Got a bunch of his stuff, and I actually am going to end up ordering some more here before too long. But those were long overdue in the collection. But then here is Mike and Rick, and the Mike Rotunda, I don't think we'll get this look for him from Mattel. I'd be pretty surprised. It's a deeper cut, I feel like. I mean, it was a deeper cut for me, even, and I think I'm a pretty... I don't know, I would say a hardcore fan, at the very least a hardcore collector. So, Varsity Club, I might end up taking one of his IRS sculpts and repainting it in the skin tone here to pop on, and then making a US Express version of him to go with a Barry Windham. That I have that idea floating around, so I might end up doing that. The formula I was already happy with, but then when I was looking up some pictures, I decided to take some knee pads from a Page figure, I think it was. A basic Page figure. So those are like skinnier. And then I took the normal knee pads. One was from a Johnny Gargano, and then the orange one, can't think of who it came from, but I was able to slip those over, and I was really happy with how those turned out. It fit on pretty well. It didn't sit weird on those black knee pads, and there was a few different looks, but I thought that was a cool one just because it's different than what we'd normally get. I do think both of these head sculpts do look fantastic though, and some of the smaller details like the silver on the boot there, and then with Rick Steiner, I always loved that he wore mismatched boots and knee pads. So I looked up a few different things, and I happen to have a spare I happen to have just one white boot, and I figured this was the perfect time to use it. Formula wise, I'm happy there. The head sculpt is so nice. I really like that. If Mattel didn't give that to us, this like older or younger, I guess, Rick Steiner, I'd be pretty surprised. I still think that, like, I know we got the Ultimate Edition that's in his shorter hair, that's in the New Generation era. I'd be surprised if we didn't get Rick Steiner before then with his fro here. Like in this look, there's a couple different Michigan singlet designs he had. I just feel like there's so many Steiners that they could hit on, and I just don't know how many we're actually going to get. But let's wrap it up with getting everyone on the screen. But there we have it. There is all 4 of the customs for today, and I feel like I'm in my like Jakks Classic Superstars era of making customs. One of my favorite things about when I was collecting Jakks is that we were getting super deep cut figures. One that's always stuck out to me was Johnny Rods. I had no clue who Johnny Rods was. I barely do now. But I only knew of him because he was in the Jakks Classic Superstars line. And every time I think I know what all I need to know, someone like that pops up. I do some research. It opens up a whole new area of wrestling that I want to get into. And I've really, especially going through like Tom Vegg's catalog, head gimmicks, they've got a lot of older guys in there. And just adding stuff like that to my collection. And it just, in the best way, feels like I'm never going to run out of options. Even if I made all of the old flashback stuff I wanted to, there's always new wrestlers. And there's always AEW wrestlers that I can turn into elites. But I had a lot of fun making these, especially the Mike Rotunda. I really didn't know a lot about him. I knew he was in the U.S. Express because he got inducted in the Hall of Fame. But I didn't even know a lot about him then. But I always knew him as IRS. And then going back and watching some of the Varsity Club era stuff of his, I didn't realize, like, he was a bad man. He was a bad man. I watched him whoop up on a jobber that was messing around. He just put him in a headlock and showed him what was up. I just thought of him as the corny accountant dude that came out with Ted DiBiase. But anyway, that's going to wrap things up for today. So if you stuck around, I appreciate it very much. Please continue to like, share, subscribe. And remember, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy more action figures. Figure Dude